Hello YouTube! I'm going to be reading from A New Concept of the Universe written by Walter Russell. Unbalanced Atomic, Solar, and Stellar Systems Wobble. Number 62. When a top spins swiftly enough upon its axes to maintain an angle of 90 degrees from the ground, it spins without wobbling on its axes, for it is in balance with gravity. Its axis points towards the Earth's center. When spinning slows down, its center of gravity is divided. The top then wobbles. We say that is out of balance. Scientifically expressed, we should say that its balance is divided. To divide balance, its one center of gravity must be extended to two foci instead of one. We exemplify this effect. Number 63. Two children play seesaw by alternately lengthening opposite ends of their lever. That divides gravity by throwing the lever off-center from its fulcrum. The fulcrum seemingly moves towards the short end of the lever to counteract balance. When the reversed motion takes place, the fulcrum seemingly moves to the other side of its own center to again counteract balance. That develops two seeming extensions of the fulcrum from its own center. The fulcrum has not moved, however, for the fulcrum is gravity. It has but seemed to move to two east-west points. It has seemed to make gravity oscillate between two extended balance points. Number 64. These two east-west extensions of gravity are east-west magnetic poles, for they extend as such only for the purpose of keeping this universe in balance in its every effort. When the seesaw returns to its level, these two east-west foci withdraw into their fulcrum and cease to be, because unbalance has ceased to be. When the spinning top slows down, it leans away from its vertical axes. It has become unbalanced with its north-south vertical axis, which points towards the center of the Earth. That leaning describes a circle around its perpendicular axes. North-south is seemingly divided into an extended pair, which seems to cause gravity to oscillate. Number 65. Those seeming oscillations are east-west extensions of balance which counteract and control any unbalance which threatens to upset the balance of north-south extensions. Number 66. The above paragraph is fraught with meaning which must be clarified. The relation of balance to gravity is so little understood that it should be made clear. We see a man on a tightrope extending a balance pole east and west from his south-north direction to counterbalance any unbalance he may create. We relate the fact gravity in far too vague way of thinking. It should not be vague. We should know its meaning dynamically. Number 67. Its explanation is given in two steps. The first step is to reduce it in principle to utter simplicity. The second step will be to amplify that simple fundamental. First step, number 68. We must first realize that creation is but the electric thinking of idea expressed by moving body forms imagined in the mind of the Creator. The moving body forms are created in the image of the Creator's imagings. The body forms are not idea, but they simulate idea. When man creates thought forms for his ideas, his conception expands from the 0 point of its beginning. He builds a complete mental three-dimensional form for his idea and creates a body to simulate that idea. He then fatigues from thinking that idea and rests for an interval before again thinking it unto further form. The thoughts which he extends to cause body forms to appear, he now retracts and they disappear. Body forms of matter appear when mind concentrates by thinking idea. They disappear when mind decentrates to rest from thinking idea. Mind of God and mind of man are one. The Creator thinks idea as man does, by extending it in waves of electric thinking and withdrawing it by reversal of extended thinking. Briefly, then, we may define creation as mind-imaged electric extension from a point and its retraction to that point. Second step, number 69. This universe is the sum total of electric actions and reactions expressed in thought waves of two-way motion. Every action is an outward radial extension of balance from one balanced condition to create two opposite equally balanced conditions. Every action is, therefore, an outward radial extension of balance from a centering point of universal balance. Number 70. The extension of infinite radii from a dimensionless point brings into being a three-dimensional radial universe. It has length, breadth, and thickness, and it has form, the sphere. Also, it has measure, the measure of the energy which desire for extension gave to it. The desire to divide and extend one condition of rest into two intervals of motion are marked throughout the universe by the magnetic surveyor and the controller of balance. Number 71. North and south poles are measured out to limit the extension of form from its wave axes to a sphere of balanced curvature. East-west polarity resists north-south extension of matter beyond the form of a sphere. Its office is to return the sphere to its wave axes. North-south polarity resists that change. Number 72. In a radial universe of varying pressures, the change in pressures is only in the inward-outward direction. There are, therefore, only two directions of changing pressures in this universe. Number 73. The inward one is the direction of multiplied pressures. Gravity means multiplied pressure. Gravity is north. North is positive. Number 74. The outward one is the direction of divided pressures. Radiation means divided pressure. Radiation is south. South is negative. Number 75. North-south is the direction of dynamic action. The piston of the universal heartbeat is north-south. Cyclones, tornadoes, lightning, rains, and all other dynamic effects of motion are north-south. Their potentials all multiply in the direction of north and divide in the direction of south. Solidity of matter is north. Emptiness of space is south. Number 76. North-south represents the divided universe of pairs of equal opposite conditions. The condition which we call gravity and the condition which we call radiation. Briefly stated, north-south is the direction of motion and time. For sequences are north-to-south reversals which born time. Summary. Number 77. East-west poles are measured intervals of extensions on planes of rest. They represent the undivided universe of unchanging balance and potential condition. Number 78. North-south poles are measured intervals of extensions of planes of motion. They represent the divided universe of changing balance and potential condition. Number 79. North-south polarity divides the universe into two equal and opposite conditions by extending balance dually and dividing it into pairs. Number 80. East-west polarity resists that division and sets up two counterbalancing east-west poles to control the balance of the two conditions on their return to the one condition of rest. Examples. Number 81. A true sphere sun is in perfect balance. It has but one focal center of gravity because its radii are of equal length. The moment the sphere oblates, its radii are of unequal length. Their potentials vary because the equatorial extensions of mass outbalance the polar extensions. Two east-west balancing poles then extend from the center of gravity to control the unbalance of potential now set up in the sphere. A section of the sun, cut through upon the plane of its equator, would be circular. The radii of a circle are equal. A section cut through the poles would be elliptical. The radii of an ellipse are unequal. Number 82. A sphere has but one focal center but an ellipse has two. During the prolation of elliptical spheroids to spherical form, the two east-west foci draw closer to the center of gravity as north-south foci extend away from that center. As spheres oblate to elliptical spheroids, the east-west poles extend away from the center of gravity as depolarization draws the north-south poles closer together. Number 83. The Sun is practically a true sphere. Its equatorial ring of hundreds of millions of miles is a gyroscopic wheel. Its shape is circular at its equator, but its pressure directions are spiral. The planet Mercury is practically a true sphere. It is an equatorial extension of the Sun. If it were still a part of the Sun's body, it would revolve around the Sun's axis as an integral part of the Sun's body. Number 84. Even though it has separated from it and has an axis of its own upon which it must turn, it must still revolve around the Sun's body as well as its own. Number 85. Mercury is also a gyroscopic wheel. Its ring extension coincides with the ring extension of the Sun. They are on the same plane. Therefore, their poles of rotation are parallel. If the pressures of the rings were equipotential circles, Mercury would describe a circular orbit around the Sun. But they are not. They are spiral. Therefore, they are perihelion and aphelion foci, which balance and control the extension and retraction of its orbit around the Sun. This same thing is true of the four inner moons of Jupiter and the inner moon of Mars. Number 86. Our Earth is not located upon the plane of the Sun's gyroscopic wheel. It has broken away from it to an angle of 23 degrees. Its gyroscopic disk is so greatly out of balance with that of the Sun that it has to revolve around the Sun below the Sun's gyroscopic disk for one half of the year and above it for the other half, instead of keeping on the same plane with it as Mercury does. That puts the Earth in the same predicament that the tightrope walker finds himself in when he leans out of balance with gravity, or a spinning top is when it leans off center. Number 87. The angle of their leanings is the same in principle as the leaning of the Earth's axis. It makes the Earth wobble on its axis to describe circles around its plane of gravity, while it reaches out for two counterbalancing foci, just as the tightrope walker reaches for two counterbalancing foci. Number 88. Science has been retarded in discovering this fact of counterbalance of polarity by misinterpreting the action of the tightrope walker. The interpretation being that the extension of a balancing pole is to counteract the weight of his unbalance by extending an equal weight upon the other side of his balancing equator. 89. That is true, but the conception of weight is not true. By reading my chapter on weight, this will be clarified by the true conception of weight as the potential of resistance to strains and stresses set up by any departure from a balanced condition. Number 90. When the Earth stood up straight, it had no need of extending its balanced pole. But the moment it leaned, it needed those counterbalancing foci as much as the tightrope walker needed them.